Now we're going to work on subtracting fractions, okay? What we have to do is make sure that our top number, the numerator, is greater than the lower number, right? So this is okay. Then we make sure that our denominators are the same and have the same common denominator, and then we can go ahead and subtract. So 4 minus 2 is 2. We have the same common denominator of 5. Then we can subtract by borrowing from here, and we have 15 minus 16 is, my brain is not thinking, you guys, is 9, right? Yes. Okay. 9. So I subtract 15 minus 6 is 9, and I have 9 2/5 because I was able to subtract those fractions. Now we're going to subtract where we have a whole number and then a mixed number. So we can't do that because we need to be able to subtract a fraction from a fraction. So what we've got to do is we've got to borrow and make that a 15, and we borrow a 1. But remember, a 1 has to turn into a fraction. So we look at the common denominator here, or the denominator used in this fraction, which is 11, and we've got to take 1 and make it a fraction. But don't forget, any number over itself equals 1. So we want to use 11 over 11. So we're going to rewrite this as 15 and 11 over 11 minus 7 and 4/11. And when we subtract that, we would subtract 11 minus 4 is 7, our common denominator of 11, and 15 minus 7 is 8. So there we have 16 minus 7 and 4/11 equals 8 and 7/11 because we borrowed 1 and made it a fraction. We're also going to talk about percent. Now remember, percent means to the 100th. So a percent is another way to express a fraction or a decimal. So let's go ahead and take the percent of 7 and let's change it in to a fraction or a decimal. Now how we do that is one, if we're going to change it into a fraction, we have to put 7 over 100. That's it. We know that it's 7/100ths. Okay, then what we could do is we would either reduce if we could, but in this case we can't. Then to write it as a decimal, we divide it in, right? So we have 7 divided by 100. Now remember, we can't do that. So what do? We add our point, we add 2 zeros, and we know that 100 goes into 700 7 times. Oh, but don't forget, you've got to move your decimal place up here, but there's nothing right here. Guess what? You've got to add a 0 there, okay? Because it's holding that place value. 7 times 100 is 700. Subtract, we get our 0. So 7% is the fraction 7/100ths, is the decimal 0.07 or 7/100ths. Let's do another one. 50%. Let's write it as a decimal. 50 over 100. Well, look at that. We can go ahead and we can rewrite that one as a simpler fraction and reduce it, because we know 50 can go into 100 as it can go into itself. So 50 divided by 50 is 1, and 100 divided by 50 is 2. So 50% is written as a half, as a fraction. Then to go ahead and write it as a decimal, we do 50 divided by 100. We can't do that, so we add our 0. 100 goes into 500. 5 times 100 is, 500. I subtract. I then bring my decimal place up here. Now 0.5 is it, but that kind of looks a little funny. Sometimes we like to write it as 50 or 50/100ths. But look, I can actually see it there and see that 50/100ths is 50 hundredths. So much easier than doing the division, but you can do it both ways. Now we're going to go over converting temperatures. Now remember, we have two equations because we have the English measurement and the metric measurement, okay? So we have Fahrenheit and we have Celsius. Now, when you have the Celsius degrees, you are trying to change it to Fahrenheit. You use F equals 9/5 C, or it would be times C plus 32. So let's plug that in. We would do F equals 9/5 times 80 plus 32. Now remember, when we have this equation, we have to put 80/1, right? Then we can cross cancel by knowing that 5 goes into 80 oh my goodness, my brain is drawing a blank. Hold on. It's 16 times, then this would be 1, and we can't cross cancel here. But then we do F equals 9 once times 16 once plus 32. So 9 times 16 is 100. F equals 144/1 plus 32. We don't need that 1 anymore. Oh, you guys aren't being able to see this. Hold on. Sorry. And then F equals 144 plus 32 is 176. So we have 80 degrees Celsius equals 176 Fahrenheit. Now we're going to change the Fahrenheit number into Celsius. So we are using the equation C equals 5/9 times, in the parentheses, F minus 32. Now remember, we always do what's in the parentheses first. So let's plug this in. C equals 5/9. F is 122 minus 32, right? So we have to do the subtracting first. So C equals 5/9, and 122 minus 32 is 90. Okay, then we would be multiplying that because remember, this means multiply right here, okay? So now we put this over 1. 9 can go into 90 10 times. We then have C equals 5/1 times 10/1, and we know that C equals 50/1, which then equals 50. So we know that 122 Fahrenheit is 50 degrees Celsius. That is converting our temperatures.